Over the past couple of years, the popularity of high school basketball has skyrocketed through the roof, and I think it's at an all-time high. It is worth mentioning a large reason for that is because of all the young phenoms out there we've seen over the past couple of years. Growing up, or at least when I was growing up, it was insanely rare to see a kid who was 6'6" doing windmill dunks in the 8th or 9th grade and also dropping 40 points a night. Nowadays, it almost seems like a normal thing. It seems like you can go 50 miles down the road and find the next prodigy, or a kid you at least think has the potential to be a next great player. Also, another reason why you've seen the high school level get more popular as the years continue to go on is because of social media. Social media is at an all-time high, whether you're talking about Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. There's plenty of ways to put yourself out there. You don't even have to go that far back to talk about it. Only 5 to 7 years ago, it was rare to see a high school mixtape. There was probably only 8 to 10 guys that you knew by name. One of those being Corey Sanders. That's one guy I followed, and there's only a couple more. I also remember as well Andrew Wiggins. He was also in that category as the quote-unquote next LeBron James. Here's what I'm trying to say. 5 to 10 years ago, if you had a YouTube mixtape or you had a documentary like Corey Sanders, it was rare. Nowadays, you see it all the time. How many players have a overtime ball is life or any type of mixtape on YouTube? It's gotta be over 400 to 500. It's not really rare anymore, and that's not a bad thing, don't get me wrong. If anything, it's great. Fast forward in time to 2022, it's not only a different era of basketball players, it's a different era of basketball itself. I want you to think about this. You can now get a Division I offer from posting your highlights on Twitter or Instagram or anywhere. If you would have told somebody in 2012 you can get an offer from a D1 coach by posting your highlights on Twitter, I think they would have lost their mind. All these old heads and all these parents out there, probably your parents included, they bash on social media and say how terrible it is. However, I disagree. Social media is one of the best things that has ever happened if you use it right. There are so many, and I mean so many benefits to social media, but a lot of people, here's the thing, they don't take advantage of it. I'll tell you right now, and you can disagree if you want, but you're just wrong. High school is a complete joke and a waste of time unless you're getting private tutoring or going to a private school that's just better than public schools. Why is high school a complete waste of time? Number one, they're teaching you nonsense that you'll never use outside of high school, which doesn't make sense to me. And number two, when they do quote unquote teach you, they're teaching you nothing. I want you to think about this. How many times has your teacher given you homework and tried to teach you about it and you had to Google it or YouTube it on how to do it? That's my point exactly. If we're having to YouTube and Google how to do our homework, why are we going to high school? Every time I have a problem or a question on how to do something, I either Google it or YouTube it. I promise you right now, if you haven't already, you're going to learn more off of YouTube and Google than you ever will in 8 years of high school. And yes, I understand there's 12 grades, but I'm just saying 8 because that number came to my mind. Whoa, hold on. I know some of you're probably with me on this, but the others watching, you're probably sitting there thinking, yo, Matt, what in the heck are you talking about? And what does this have to do with anything involving Bronny, Mikey, and Bryce? What I just ranted about and talked about for a couple of minutes, it all goes back to high school basketball. Like I said, I think social media can be a great thing if you use it in a beneficial way. But however, here's where things really start to get fascinating. It can also be a very, and I mean very bad thing. I would say roughly 1 to 2% of people in this world, they use social media to benefit them. The other 98 to 99%, they do use it in a bad way, and that's why it gets a bad rep. You see, where things start to get interesting is I'm not too sure if these high school basketball players, and I'm talking for the vast majority, if they want clout, hype, and attention, or if they really want to be a good basketball player. Social media has definitely taken its toll on high school basketball players. It now has these guys sitting out here thinking about stuff that has nothing to do with the game, when in reality, they should just focus about being the best basketball player they can be, and the rest will take care of itself. Hold on, I'm going to find this real quick. Joe Burrow said one of the greatest things of all time, and we all know Joe Burrow. He's about to play in the Super Bowl. He had an interview a couple of days ago, and somebody said, what advice would you give to young athletes today? And he said, quote unquote, don't have a workout and go post on Instagram, work in silence. I'm sure you've heard it before, but that is some of the best advice you'll ever hear, because all these high school athletes and a bunch of the college athletes, they'll post all these insane workouts and insane drills, but after they post that, they'll sit on their butt for the next 3 to 4 days. I have a saying and quote I live my life by. There's people who talk about doing stuff, and then there's people who do stuff. The difference in those two people, and I'm sure you have some friends that are always talking about doing this and doing that, and in reality, it never happens. Why doesn't it happen? Because they're too busy talking about it. On the flip side, for people who don't talk about stuff and they just simply do it, the reason they don't talk about it is because they're too busy doing it. I'll add on what Joe Burrow said. Don't be the guy who's always talking about doing the next big thing in your life. Just do it. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. If your goal is to be a Division I athlete, don't tweet out, I'm going D1. Just do it, because then you'll look stupid if you don't do it. Anyways, let me get back on topic. We're going to start off with Mikey Williams first, and then we'll talk about Bronny and Bryce. At the beginning of Mikey's career, around 8th and 9th grade, that's when he really started to blow up and was internet famous. A large part of that was his attitude on the court. He talked a lot of crap, but he also backed it up, so I can't call it cocky. Here's my thing. I'll never label someone as cocky if they can back up what they're saying. At the same time, as a freshman at San Ysidro playing for the varsity team, he was averaging over 30 points a game. This dude was dunking on people left and right, hitting step back threes. He was basically the Steph Curry of his team. Okay, I know Steph Curry's not a great example, but you get what I'm trying to say. I'm exaggerating it. San Ysidro wasn't an elite team, and I believe they were a public school. But after playing for them, the news broke that he was going to transfer to Vertical Academy. And this is where things really start to get, not really crazy, but let's just get to it. Going to this new school that's on the East Coast is a big difference because West and East Coast basketball, it's two different things. The West Coast is more flashy. You're going to see more athletic players, more shooters. And on the East Coast, that's where you're going to see your trenches and your dogs. And by trenches, I'm referring to people that aren't really that talented, but they're going to play and give it 115%. If you're playing basketball in the Southeast and the East Coast, you better get ready for a dogfight. And I'm not even really talking about actual games. I'm talking about if you're going to your normal park. If you ever played basketball on the East Coast or you live in the Southeast, you know what I'm talking about. There's almost a fight every single game. I understand they're not going to fight in public games and you don't see that, but what I'm saying is you still see that physicality. Is physicality even a word? I don't know. We're going to roll with it. And I remember, I'm not going to let you guys forget, a lot of people out there were saying he was going to struggle and all this hype, it was going to wear off. He's not really a great basketball player. He just, he has that famous internet persona, kind of like Julian Newman. Here's my thing. I'm different from your normal person. If you are a bad basketball player and you have a lot of clout and people suck up to you and look at you as the next coming of God himself, I don't care who you are. If you're bad, you're bad. If you're good, you're good. There's no in-betweens. Just because a million people are worshiping the ground you walk on, it doesn't mean the same thing for me. I'm going to form my own opinion. I'm not like the rest of people in this world. A bunch of people out there are followers and they're not leaders. They just go with the flow. For example, if it's popular to hate on Bronny, then they're going to start hating on him. But then a couple months later, if it's popular to like him, they're going to like him. Whereas for me, I'm not a minion. I'm going to form my own opinion. If you suck at basketball, I'm going to tell you, you suck at basketball. If you're mediocre, I'm going to tell you mediocre. But with that being said, if you're good, I'm going to give credit where it's due. And I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of people aren't going to say this, but I think it's true. Mikey deserves a ton of credit for what he's doing and how he's currently going about it. I don't think some of you quite understand how much pressure was on Mikey to succeed in these past couple of seasons. I hate using the phrase run your mouth, but that's kind of what he does. Whenever you talk a lot of trash and you claim that you're the chosen one, you're this, you're that, there's even more pressure added to it. You can think what you want, but I think there's more pressure on Mikey Williams than there is Bronny James. Why do I think that? Because Bronny, he don't really talk crap, so no one's going to be like, oh, you said this, you said that, and you didn't back it up. Whereas for Mikey, he always talks crap, so he has to back it up. A lot of people felt like he was this guy who peaked in 9th grade and his game wasn't going to develop, and his game has gotten, I'd say, 5 times better than what it was his freshman season. When you're talking about a guy who is polishing and cleaning up his game, that's exactly what he's doing. We know he's an athletic freak, and he knew that, but he knew to get to the next level and hopefully get to the NBA one day, he's got to work on his shot and fundamentals. Let's be real here. How many athletic guys are there in the world that have a 35-inch vertical? You see it almost every day, and I guarantee you I could go to my local YMCA and see somebody that jumps 40 inches or higher. But the difference in those guys who don't make it and do make it is the guys who have that 40-inch vertical, they know that's not good enough to get them to the league. They understand and realize they also got to put in the work, and Mikey Williams, whether you like him, whether you hate him, you got to admit the kid's a grinder. But not only that, let's get into the most intriguing part about him, and it has nothing to do with basketball. What I'm referring to is his Instagram and his social media fame. As to much money is to his name, his net worth, I don't know, but we can all agree it's over $1 million. The dude is a flat out marketing genius, and he's only 17 years old. I wouldn't say he's the Jake Paul of high school basketball, but he's slightly below that. And what's even more surreal about this is I believe he did it on accident. What has made Mikey Williams so popular over the past 2 to 3 years? Why do people continue to watch videos with his name in it and go to watch his games? They know he's going to drop 20 to 30 points. They don't watch him for that. They watch him to see his antics on the court. They want to see his attitude on the court. They want to see how he walks into the gym, how he addresses the hate, his attitude, and yeah, you get the point. I could sit up here and name off 1,000 reasons as to why people go watch him play. The bottom line is, they want to see his antics on the court. And I don't know if some of you have paid attention or not, but if you start to notice, the older he gets, the less antics you start to see. You don't really see Mikey involved in a lot of drama like he did 1 to 2 years ago. Yeah, I mean, it's still here and there, but not as much. There's a reason for it, actually. There's a couple reasons. Reason number 1, he has the following. He knows people are going to watch him now, no matter what he does, so there's no real reason to get himself out there anymore. He has the people to watch him. And reason number 2 is the obvious. He's getting older and he's maturing. I personally believe, and he won't admit this, but I think it's 100% true, that he likes all the attention. He simply does, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I believe he enjoys the responsibility of knowing there's people out there that want him to fail. I haven't talked to Mikey on the phone, but we have gone back and forth on Instagram, sent a couple messages here and there. Just from those few messages, I can tell you right now, this dude, he's 4 steps ahead of the game. Here's the best way to describe it. He knows what he's doing. At the beginning of his rise to fame, I don't think he intentionally planned on getting 1 million or 2 million followers. It just kind of happened. Once he did get those followers, I think he quickly realized why he got them. I hate to say this, but it's kind of true. Mikey Williams is an entertainer, and he knows that. Mikey is one of the best entertainers out there. It just so happens he's also a great basketball player. And when you combine those two things, what do you get? A guy that brings in sellout crowds almost every single night. Because number 1, people love drama and they want to be entertained. And number 2, everyone likes basketball. I'm not the biggest high school basketball fan. I did go see him play last year because my brother wanted me to go with him. And it's definitely worth the experience. I don't think it's worth the experience to see him play basketball. It's just everything that goes along with it. I don't think it matters if he's playing soccer, lacrosse, water polo, baseball, football, any sport. People are going to go watch him just because it's Mikey. You don't go to a Mikey Williams basketball game to see the basketball game. You go to see Mikey. Fast forward in time as we continue to get later in his career, I think people are quickly realizing, no, this dude's not just a entertainer, he's actually a good hooper. There's a lot of stuff that you guys don't see behind the scenes, but this man is one of the hardest workers out there. This dude is always in the gym working on his footwork, working on his shooting mechanics, and just everything a basketball player should be doing. You don't see all that, and some people don't see him as a great hooper because he doesn't always talk about it. In my opinion, that's a good sign, because like I said, if somebody's always talking about it, he doesn't have time to do it. Let's get real serious though. What is the outlook for Mikey now that he's almost a senior and his high school career is starting to wrap up? I, for some reason, always believed in Mikey because I just saw the work ethic. I didn't see him as this social media entertainer that was going to fall out after high school. I don't know how to describe it. There's just something about him. I liked his attitude. Well, there is something about it. Let me go back on that statement. He's a competitor, and I can see that dog in his eyes. I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's time to be brutally honest about Mikey and his future. It's not too complicated in my eyes. No matter what Mikey does, if he goes to college, if he joins the Overtime Elite program, no matter which option, no matter where he goes, overseas doesn't matter. I think he's going to see success. I'm not too sure if he's going to see immediate success, but he's going to work at it and get better. If you are banking on Mikey falling out and not living up to the hype and expectations, I think you're going to be in a world of hurt, because I think he will. Why do I believe that? Because there is another quote and phrase I love to live my life by. You can't count out a guy who doesn't take no for an answer, and you just can't count out people in general that continue to work hard. This isn't basketball talk, this is real life talk. When somebody has an outstanding work ethic, the chances of them reaching that goal, no matter what it is almost 95% yes. It's so hard to stop a person who doesn't give up. It may seem like I'm ranting and raving and talking about how much he works, but I'm just telling you the stuff that people don't want to tell you and talk about. And I understand some of you may have the argument of stating, well, Matt, a lot of people work hard. Well, there's a difference. Mikey Williams not only works hard, he's also got God-given talent and ability. And when you combine talent and hard work, it's a recipe for success. Is Mikey Williams going to be an NBA All-Star? What's the chances of that? I don't know. That's a little too far ahead. For the sake of this video, let's say he does the college route and he goes there 1 to 2, maybe 3 years. I think he'd be a good college basketball player no matter what system he's in. What I've learned in his game the past couple of years, and the most impressive part to me, is that he's learned how to play with other great players. A lot of people wouldn't agree with this, but I think it's true. He's almost lowered his ego and pride to take a back role in some of his games. He understands if his teammate's hot, hey, I don't mind only scoring 10 points and having 20 assists, and that's a huge step in his game. When you think of Mikey, you think of the flashy dunks, the flashy passes, the 30-point performances, but when I think of him, I think of a great teammate and a guy that I'd want on my team. When I think of Mikey, I think of, oh yeah, I'm getting probably 17, 18 points per game and probably 7 to 8 assists, and of course you're going to have some turnovers here and there. You also got a guy who can go off for 40 points if he's hot and if he wants to, but he can also have 20 assists if his teammate's hot. He knows how to play with other great basketball players, and that's going to carry him far in his basketball career. The only downside about his game, and it does somewhat scare me, is his size. He doesn't have the largest wingspan ever, and that does matter, especially in the NBA, and he's only roughly 6'3". If you're not going to be 6'5" and you're in the NBA running the point guard position or in the shooting guard position, you better be able to shoot the rock, because if you can't shoot, you have no chance. I don't care how athletic you are, it doesn't matter. Everybody in the NBA is athletic. How do you make up for that non-athletic ability? Look at Trae Young, look at Stephen Curry. They can't jump that high, but they can shoot the ball. The last thing I'm going to say about him, and we're going to get a move on and talk about Bronny and Bryce James, is he's box office. You'd like to have him on your team so you can sell tickets. If you don't think that doesn't matter, I hate to inform you, it does matter. Why does it matter? Because money runs the world. It's also worth mentioning, I can't forget to throw in there, that if his basketball career doesn't turn out to be okay, he's a millionaire, so he's going to be set for life. It's time to get a move on and talk about Bronny James and Bryce James. I'm going to throw in there, I don't want to talk too much about Bryce because he is on the younger side. I want to wait and talk about him until he gets a little older. For Bronny, oh man, where do you start? You know what, let's take a look at this tweet. Somebody actually tagged me in it a couple seconds ago. It says, report, Bronny James has filed trademark applications for BJ Jr., Bronny, and Bronald with an eye towards entering the worlds of NFTs, video games, and apparel. I understand BJ Jr. and Bronny, but Bronald? Come on now, what is a Bronald? Alright, let me stop playing, but Bronald is crazy, yo. I guess that's a good way to start off with Bronny, and going back to how we started this video, social media has changed the aspect of high school basketball. Instead of Bronny focusing on his basketball career like his dad was doing at the same age, he's now focused on making money off of his name, image, and likeness, and focusing on NFTs and video games. Bronny is not only a completely different player than Mikey Williams, he's a completely different person. Bronny is one of the humblest kids you'll ever meet, and I gotta give a lot of credit to LeBron. I don't really like him, but he is a great father and a great role model. LeBron is the gold standard for a father, and I believe that 100%. He's involved in both his kids' lives, and he's just really a great dad. There's so many things I could say. For Bronny, my biggest thing is, and you can see this, it's clear as day, you can tell he's not really in love with basketball like his dad was, or even some other players out there. I don't think he truly loves basketball. I think he really likes it, but I don't think he loves it. I believe Bronny's going to be great and successful in no matter what he does, but he's not only just focused on basketball, he's focused on different aspects of his life. And that's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. You want to be versatile as a person. You don't just want to be a guy that makes a lot of money. What's the point of making a lot of money if you're a terrible person and a terrible father? I think Bronny has a lot of hobbies, and one of those hobbies is basketball, it's video games, and it's other things out there. Does he want to go to the NBA? Yeah, I'm sure. Who doesn't? I mean, anybody would want to do that. But I don't think he has the drive like some of the players out there, because here's the thing. If he doesn't make it to the NBA, he understands he's going to be a millionaire. It's not really life or death. Whereas for his father, it was get to the NBA or you're going to be living in the hood the rest of your life. There's not as much motivation there when you're a 17-year-old kid living in a $20 million mansion and you can do whatever you want, whereas LeBron was living in a house that was probably 800 square foot. Whenever your back's against the wall, you tend to work harder in life, whereas for Bronny, he's kind of chilling. And I'm not hating on the kid, he's got the dream lifestyle. I think we'd all be doing the same thing. We'll take a look at this as well. Somebody also put out there, is Bronny that good? Genuinely asking. Somebody replied, no, he get this type of coverage and hype because of his dad. He's a 4-star, not even top 25 according to some of the top sites. He's still very talented, def a D1 athlete, but nowhere near the hype. He's never been the best player on his team in a year he's played for Sierra Canyon. That tweet right there, it doesn't tell you the entire story, but it sums it up. When you're talking about one of the most talented players and maybe one of the most polished players in high school basketball, I don't know how you say anyone outside of Bronny James. I don't keep up with a lot of high school basketball. I look at the mainstream stuff going on, but Bronny James just has that NBA player game at the high school level. He's got a smooth jump shot, he's fundamental, he's got good footwork, just everything you expect out of the son of an NBA player. I'm sure he also has some of the top trainers in the world, so that is some credit to that. You can have all the talent in the world, you can have all the trainers in the world, you can have this, you can have that, but if you don't really love the game, you're not going to reach your full potential. At least for the high school level, I think Bronny is a great basketball player. I'm talking about the high school level, I think he's great, and that may be controversial. But when you start talking about college and possibly the NBA, he has a long way to go. The only downside you see on his game, I've said it before, and a lot of people out there, they've noticed this, he's not too aggressive on the court, and I'm not saying he looks lazy at times, but he doesn't look involved with the game. There will be a 3 to 4 minute span where you don't even know he's on the court because he's sitting in the corner. Would I like to see him go get the ball some more? Yeah, of course, but I also think he's going with the flow of the offense. You got to keep into account he's playing on one of the most stacked teams in the country, so maybe that's his role on the team sometimes. Bronny's not like his dad. He's not going to backtalk the coach. Bronny's going to do what the coach says and just go with it. That's his personality, and you can see it in his game. He's not aggressive. However, with that being said, in the past couple of months, he's taken some large leaps and bounds in his game that I like to see. You're starting to see that he is definitely more aggressive this year, and as the older he gets, the more mature he gets. I think eventually down the road, not right now, but down the road, he'll be better than Mikey Williams. When it's all said and done after high school, he's going to be roughly 6'7". I mean, maybe 220 pounds, and he's just going to be an absolute unit on the court. I don't have to describe his body frame. You know what he's going to look like. He's going to be a mini LeBron. And what's going to help him in the long run is Bronny is already right now a better shooter than his dad. If you're looking for the best shooting form on the high school level, look no farther. Bronny James has it down pat. His mechanics are flawless, and he has a great jump shot. He does miss here and there, but he's still learning. He's got a long ways to go. This is all good, and what makes him scary, and I would say probably one of the scariest prospects out there, is everyone knows he is nowhere close to his potential. If anything, he is just tapping into his potential right now. The sky's the limit for him. Whereas for Mikey, I feel like he's maxed out on his potential. He can get a little better, but it's not like Bronny. He has a lot of room to grow. There's a positive and negative to Bronny. I think he's a system player. In college, he's going to go with the system. If he's in a good system, he'll look good, but if he's in a bad one, he'll look bad. You don't really know what you're going to get out of him, and I think it depends on the games. Some games you might get 6 points out of Bronny, and the next one you might get 20. Whereas for Mikey, you can almost guarantee he's going to get around 15 or 20. Another thing we got to bring up is that Bronny's IQ is already at an NBA level, and he is one of the smartest players on the court. That doesn't mean he's the best player on the court, but he's one of the smartest. I don't see him as a leader right now. Hopefully he can get that characteristic and build it up in the future, but if you're not really a natural born leader, it doesn't happen overnight. When I see Bronny and what I think about his future is I think he has a better shot of getting to the NBA than Mikey Williams, solely due to LeBron and his dad, and he's going to get him in the league somehow or some way. And if you thought Mikey Williams was box office, Bronny is almost double that. More than likely, he will go the college route, and I expect him to go to Duke. Let's say he goes to Duke for 2 to 3, maybe 4 years, and he will get to the NBA one day. What do I see his NBA career looking like? Well, number one, he's not aggressive, and I think at best, he's a role player. There's nothing wrong being a role player, especially in the NBA, but to say he could be an all-star, I think that's stretching it. He could possibly be an all-star, but I don't see that go-get-it attitude, and it's definitely important. The talent is there, no questions asked, and he's improved a lot this year. I think you'd be out of your mind to say he wouldn't get to the NBA. There is this whole debate going on that, if LeBron wasn't his dad, he wouldn't be getting all this hype and attention. I mean, yeah, of course. There's nothing to even talk about there. It doesn't matter. We're not going to talk about if LeBron wasn't his dad because the bottom line is LeBron is his dad. You can't change it. Moving on, and last but not least, let's talk about Bryce for a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time on it. Bryce is really on the come up, and one thing you're starting to see in the whole rumor surrounding him is that he's going to be better than Bronny. I've seen it from time to time, and somebody even sent me a TikTok about it on Instagram that it's the little brother effect. If you don't know what the little brother effect is, there's this whole conspiracy theory. I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory. It almost seems true that the youngest brother in the family always turns out to be the best athlete. Although it's not 100% true, I would say 98% of the time it's right. I think you know where I'm going with this. A lot of people feel like that's going to happen with Bronny and Bryce James. I'm not too sure how I feel about it. At first, I was like, oh yeah, of course. Bryce, he's going to be taller than Bronny. He's going to be bigger, and he's going to be a better basketball player. But I just don't know. It's so hard to tell right now. I don't know what all these people are basing their information off of. I mean, yeah, Bryce has had a couple of good games here and there, but so has Bronny. I'm not too sure about it, but I can say this. Bryce has a very impressive game for a kid at that young of an age. It's not even possible for me to give an evaluation on his game because we haven't even seen too much. I'm going to end the video off here. It was already way longer than I anticipated it to be, but yeah, basketball videos are back. Drop a like for it if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe, like, do nice stuff, and as always, let's be great. I'm out, y'all. Peace.